So the two brothers and their murdered man rode past fair Florence to where Arno's stream gurgles through straitened banks and still doth fan itself with dancing bulrush, and the bream keeps head against the freshets, sick and wan. The brothers' faces in the ford did seem Lorenzo's flush with love. They passed the water into a forest quiet for the slaughter. There was Lorenzo, slain and buried in. There in that forest did his great love cease. Ah, when a soul doth thus its freedom win, it aches in loneliness, is ill at peace. As the break covert bloodhounds of such sin, they dipped their swords in water, and did tease their horses homeward with convulsed spur, each richer by his being a murderer. They told their sister how with sudden speed Lorenzo had taken ship for foreign lands, because of some great urgency and need, in their affairs requiring trusty hands. Poor girl, put on thy stifling widow's weed, and scape at once from hope's accursed bands. Today thou wilt not see him, nor tomorrow, and the next day will be a day of sorrow. She weeps alone for pleasures not to be. Sorely she wept until the midnight came on, and then, instead of love, O misery, she brooded over the luxury alone. His image in the dusk she seemed to see, and to the silence made a gentle moan, spreading her perfect arms upon the air, and on her couch low murmuring, where, oh where? But selfishness, love's cousin, held not long its fiery vigil in her single breast. She fretted for the golden hour, and hung upon the time with feverish unrest. Not long, for soon into her heart a throng of higher occupants as rich as zest came tragic passion not to be subdued, and sorrow for her love in travels rude. In the mid-days of autumn, on their eaves, the breath of winter comes from far away, and the sick west continually bereaves of some gold tinge and plays a roundelay of death among the bushes and the leaves, and to make all bare before he dares to say, from his north cavern, so sweet Isabella, by gradual decay from beauty fell, because Lorenzo came not oftentimes. She'd ask her brothers, with an eye all pale, striving to be itself what dungeon climbs could keep him off so long. They spake a tale, time after time, to quiet her. The crimes came on them like a smoke from Hinnam's vale, and every night in dreams they groaned aloud to see their sister in her snowy shroud. And she had died in drowsy ignorance, but for a thing more deadly dark than all. It came like a fierce poison drunk by chance, which saves a stick man from the feathered pole. For some few gasping moments, like a lance, waking an Indian from his cloudy hole, with cruel pierce and bringing him again sense of the gnawing fire at heart and brain. It was a vision, in the drowsy gloom, the dull of midnight at her cut couch's foot. Lorenzo stood and wept. The forest tomb had marred his glossy hair, which once could shoot lustre into the sun, and put cold doom upon his lips, and taken the soft lute from his lorn voice, and past his loamed ears had made a miry channel for his tears. Strange sound it was when the pale shadow spake, for there was striving in its piteous tongue to speak as when on earth it was awake, and Isabella on its music hung. Languor there was in it, and tremulous shake, as in a palsied druid's harp unstrung, and though it moaned a ghostly undersong, like hoarse night gusts sepulchral briars among, its eyes, though wild, were still all dewy bright with love, and kept all phantom fear aloof from the poor girl by magic of their light, the while it did unthread the horrid woof of the late darkened time, the murderous spite of pride and avarice, the dark pine roof in the forest and the sodden turf dell, where without any word from stabs he fell, saying moreover, Isabel my sweet, red whortle berries droop above my head, and a large flint stone weighs upon my feet. Around me beeches and high chestnuts shed their leaves, and prickly nuts, a sheepfold bleat, comes from beyond the river to my bed. Go shed one tear upon my heather bloom, and it shall comfort me within the tomb. I am a shadow now, alas, alas, upon the skirts of human nature dwelling. Alone, I chant alone the holy mass, while little sounds of life are around me kneeling, and glossy bees at noon do fieldward pass, and many a chapel bell the hour is telling, paining me through, though sounds grow strange to me, and thou art distant in humanity. I know what was, I feel full well what is, and I should rage if spirits could go mad, though I forget the taste of earthly bliss, that paleness warmed my grave as though I had a seraph chosen from the bright abyss to be my spouse. Thy paleness makes me glad, thy beauty grows upon me, and I feel a greater love through all my essence steal. The spirit mourned, adieu, dissolved and left the atom darkness in a slow turmoil, as one of healthful midnight sleep bereft, thinking on rugged hours and fruitless toil. We put our eyes into a pillowy cleft, and see the spangly gloom froth up and boil. It made sad Isabella's eyelids ache, and in the dawn she started up awake. Ha ha, said she, I knew not this hard life. I thought the worst was simple misery. I thought some fate with pleasure or with strife portioned us happy days, or else to die. But there is crime, a brother's bloody knife. Sweet spirit, thou hast schooled my infancy. I'll visit thee for this, and kiss thine eyes, and greet thee morn even in the skies. When the full morning came, she had devised how she might secret to the forest high, how she might find the clay so dearly prized, and sing to it one last lullaby, how her short absence might be unsurmised, while she the inmost of the dream would try. Resolved she took with her an aged nurse, and went into that dismal forest hearse. See, as they creep along the riverside, how she doth whisper to that aged dame, and after, looking round the champaign wide, shows her knife. What feverish hectic flame burns in thee, child? What good can thee betide? What thou shouldst smile again? The evening came, and they had found Lorenzo's earthy bed. The flint was there, the berries at his head, who hath not loitered in the churchy green yard, and let his spirit, like a demon mole, work through the clay soil and gravel hard to see the skull, coffined bones and funeral stole, pitying each form that hungry death hath marred, and filling it once more with human soul. Ah, this is holiday to what was felt when Isabella by Lorenzo knelt. She gazed into the fresh thrown mould, as though one glance did fully all its secrets tell. Clearly she saw, as other eyes would know, pale limbs at the bottom of a crystal well. Upon the murderous spot she seemed to grow, like a native lily of the dell. Then with her knife all of a sudden she began to dig more fervently than missus can. Soon she turned up a soiled glove, whereon her silk had played in purple fantasies. She kissed it with a lip more chill than stone, and put it in her bosom where it dries, and freezes utterly unto the bone, those dainties made to still an infant's cries. Then gan she work again, nor stayed her care, but to throw back at times her veiling hair. That old nurse stood beside her, wondering until her heart felt pity to the core, at sight of such a dismal labouring, and so she kneeled with all her locks all hoar, and put her lean hands to the horrid thing. 3 hours they laboured at this travail sore. At last they felt the kernel of the grave, and Isabella did not stamp and rave. Ah, wherefore all this wormy circumstance? Why linger at the yawning tomb so long? Oh, for the gentleness of old romance, the simple plaining of a minstrel's song. Fair reader, at the old take a glance, for here in truth it doth not well belong. To speak, oh, turn thee to the very tale, and taste the music of that vision pale. With duller steel than a Persian sword, they cut away no formless monster head, but one whose gentleness did well accord with death as life, the ancient harps have said. Love never dies, but lives, immortal lord. If love impersonate was ever dead, pale Isabella kissed it and low moaned. 'Twas love cold, dead indeed, but not dethroned. In anxious secrecy they took it home, and then the prize was all for Isabel. She combed its wild hair with a golden comb, and all around each eye's sepulchral cell pointed each fringed lash, the smeared loam, with tears as chilly as a dripping well. She drenched away, and still she combed and wept, sighing all day, and still she kissed and wept. Then in a silken scarf, sweet with the dews of precious flowers plucked in Araby, and divine liquids come from odorous ooze, that the cold serpent piped refreshfully. She wrapped it up, and for its tomb did choose a garden pot wherein she laid it by, and covered it with mould, and over it set sweet basil, which her tears kept ever wet. And she forgot the stars, the moon, and the sun, and she forgot the blue above the trees, and she forgot the dells where waters run, and she forgot the chilly autumn breeze. She had no knowledge when the day was done, and the new morn she saw not, but in peace hung over her sweet basil evermore, and moistened it with tears unto the core. And so she ever fed it with thin tears, whence thick and green and beautiful it grew, so that it smelt more balmy than its peers. Of basil tufts in Florence for it drew nurture besides from life, from human fears, from the fast mouldering head there shut from view, so that the jewel safely casketed came forth, and in perfumed leaflets spread. O melancholy, linger here a while. O music, music, breathe despondingly. O echo, echo, from some sombre isle, unknown Lethean, sigh to us, O sigh. Spirits in grief, lift up your heads and smile. Lift up your heads, sweet spirits, heavily, and make a pale light in your cypress glooms, tinting with silver wan your marble tombs. Woe hither, all ye syllables of woe, from the deep throat of sad Melpomene. Through bronzed lyre in tragic order go, and touch the strings into a mystery. Sound mournfully upon the winds, and lo, for simple Isabella soon to be. Among the dead she withers like a palm, cut by an Indian for its juicy balm. O leave the palm to wither by itself, let not quick winter chill its dying hour. It may not be those Bailities of pelf, her brethren, noted for the continual shower. From her dead eyes, and many a curious elf among her kindred wondered that such dower of youth and beauty should be thrown aside by one marked out to be a noble's bride. And furthermore, her brethren wondered much why she sat by the drooping basil green, and why it flourished as by magic touch. Greatly they wondered what the thing might mean. They could not surely give belief that such a very nothing would have power to wean her from her own fair youth in pleasures gay, and even remembrance of her love's delay. Therefore they watched time when they might sift this hidden whim, and long they watched in vain, for seldom did she go to chapel shrift, and seldom felt she any hunger pain, and when she left she hurried back as swift as bird on wings to breast its eggs again, and patient as a hen bird sat her there, beside her basil weeping through her hair. Yet they contrived to steal the basil pot, and to examine it in a secret place. The thing was vile, with green and livid spot, and yet they knew it was Lorenzo's face. The guerdon of their murder they had got, and so left Florence in a moment's space, never to turn again. Away they went, with blood upon their heads to banishment. O melancholy, turn thine eyes away. O music, music, breathe despondingly. O echo, echo, on some other day, from isles Lethean, sigh to us, O sigh. Spirits of grief, sing not your well away, for Isabel, sweet Isabel, will die will die a death too lone and incomplete, now they have taken away her basil sweet. Piteous she looked on a dead and senseless thing, asking for her lost basil, amorously, and with melodious chuckle in the strings of her lorn voice, she oftentimes would cry, after the pilgrim in his wanderings, to ask him where her basil was, and why 'twas hid from her, for cruel 'tis, she said, to steal my basil pot away from me. And so she pinned, and so she died forlorn, imploring for her basil to the last. No heart was there in Florence but did mourn, in pity of her love so overcast, and the sad ditty of this story borne, from mouth to mouth through all the country past, still is the burthen same, O cruelty, to steal my basil pot away from me. Isabella, or the Pot of Basil, Part 2, by John Keats.